Have you ever wondered what goes into writing a cookbook for the first time? Well, in this video, I'm going to share a little bit about how I got my first cookbook deal and what's going on behind the scenes while I'm working on it. If you're new, my name is Talia and I'm the founder of Workweek Lunch, and welcome to my channel. Thanks for being here. If you are new or longtime community member, I'm really excited about this video to, kind of shed some light on the cookbook development process. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's something I've always seen myself doing, and I'm finally doing it. I'm going to share a little bit of the behind the scenes process and answer a couple questions I got on Instagram about how I got this deal, what is it like to write a cookbook, and all the stuff you want to know. First question, can you talk about getting published? How did it happen? I've been in this food blogging space for a couple of years, and over the years I've had publishers reach out to me and say, hey, can you write a cookbook? We need 300 recipes, it's going to be keto friendly, and we have $5,000 to give you. Also, you have to do it in 2 months. There are a ton of publishers out there trying to take advantage of trends and green novice bloggers that are trying to break into the cookbook world by giving them these kind of crappy deals. If you are a food blogger watching this, don't take those kinds of deals. There are better ones out there for you. And so I said no to all of them throughout the years. Once you see one, you can see it from a mile away. About a year and a half ago, I started working on a cookbook proposal. Traditionally, you write a proposal that includes a couple recipes, a marketing plan, your target audience, like all these things. You can find all that information online if you just Google like cookbook proposal template. You have to write about 30 to 60 pages of a proposal, and then you would shop your idea to a literary agent that works with cookbook authors, and that agent would then take it to different publishing houses to bid on the book. That's a traditional route. It takes a long time, and I was working on a proposal, but I was kind of half-assing it and I just kept putting it off. So in November, when a company called Page Street Publishing reached out to me, at first I was like, okay, this kind of seems like one of those deals I talked about earlier that isn't gonna be great, but I wanted to get on the phone with them anyway. It sounded a little different. So it turns out it was, and I ended up going with them. Of course, through the process of, so when they approached me, they kind of were like, hey, do you want to do a cookbook? Do you have any ideas? We love to talk about working with you. And I was like, yeah, actually I have like half a proposal done. And they were like, great. So we ended up on this idea of just doing a lunch focused cookbook because of my brand, Workweek Lunch. They thought that would be the best, and I was like, sure, I'm happy to just do lunch recipes, even though I do breakfast, dinner, and everything else. In that process, I had to submit a few recipes for the editor to test out to make sure that I was legit. I had to send over a sample table of contents and some other writing samples around the book to make sure that I can actually write. And eventually we got a contract done, and I'm starting. That's the craziest part about this process. It's like once the contract is signed, it's like, okay, go write your manuscript, see you in a few months, bye. I'm new to this. I'm kind of just taking it as I go and learning as I go. It's really fun, but it is a little scary. When I was talking with them, I did my due diligence of reaching out to other food bloggers and cookbook authors that had worked with this company, and I think that was the number one thing I did that sold me on it. In talking to these other bloggers and cookbook authors, they just had mostly good things to say about the process. Of course, no one's gonna say 100% good things, but I just had the confidence that I was making the right move by going with Page Street Publishing. It wasn't the exact deal I envisioned for myself, I will say that, but I knew that this was the right time for me to work on a cookbook, and the stars just kind of aligned on this. I had a good gut feeling about it. So I hope that answers your question about how this came to be and also how traditionally you would go about publishing a cookbook. Of course, there is a self-publishing route, which I knew I did not want to do because it's so much work. I'd rather just focus on what I'm good at, my zone of genius, which is developing recipes and photographing them and letting Page Street take care of all the distribution and printing and manufacturing and all that stuff. The next question is, how do you choose recipes for your cookbook? This is so daunting and scary. I would say it was made a little bit easier because I had to submit my table of contents before moving forward. And what I did, so in a table of contents, if you look at any cookbook, they have chapters, they're usually divided by different sections of maybe it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, appetizers, desserts. Maybe it's, you know, family style meals, quick bites. You know, they all have their own spin on the different sections. So I really took a lot of creative liberty about what sections I want to have. I'm not going to reveal them to you now, but think essential lunch meals that you would want to eat during the workday at home or in the office, stuff that fits into that main category, which is what the book is about. That made the process a little easier. Like, I had to nail down this table of contents with the sections, and that kind of informed the recipes I would choose. I am limited to only using recipes in this cookbook that don't exist in the Workweek Lunch Meal Prep program, which is our subscription, or my free blog, workweeklunch.com. So I have to just make 60 brand new recipes for this. The deal is that if I choose any recipes that exist, and I'm limited to 5 of them out of the 60 recipes, they have to turn into like marketing materials for the book, or I have to take them down from the site or the subscription, which I really don't want to do. So I'm choosing to just make 60 fresh recipes for this book. And the reason they do that, by the way, is because they know people aren't going to buy a cookbook if those recipes exist elsewhere. Come on, I mean, that's a no-brainer. And I'm happy to comply with that. Obviously, I want people to buy this book. I want it to be special and exclusive. And I'm excited to offer this book to a group of my audience that might not need a subscription. You know, they might not need that meal plan subscription we offer, so we have this cookbook and they get these special recipes and it'll be great. Back to the question, to wrap that up, I'm choosing based on what categories I chose to put in the book, and it's been really fun. You know, my general philosophy around food is to have a lot of variety. So there will be vegan recipes, there will be omnivore recipes, pescatarian recipes. That is definitely all going in the book. In the conversations about the recipes in the book with my editor, she made it really clear that we have to make sure they're different enough from each other. So she's helping guide the process too a little bit, and that's, you know, it's nice to have someone to work with on that. We have hundreds of recipes between the Workweek Lunch Meal Prep program and the free blog. So, you know, in some ways it is a challenge to come up with new ones, but in other ways it's not. This is my job. You know, I love coming up with new ideas that are fresh and different. It's something I just happen to naturally be good at, and I have a lot of practice. So that part isn't so challenging. But it is crazy to think that this book is permanent. I can't change it. So the recipes that go in are like, that's it, and that is the scary part. I got a lot of questions about the development process, and the development process for this book is really similar to what we do for the Workweek Lunch Meal Prep program and the blog. My process is like this. I have a recipe in my head. I research what already exists and how it's done. I'm really looking for the method, especially if it's a brand new to me meal that I've never done before and there's cooking techniques that I'm not really familiar with. I'm definitely going to research other cookbooks and blogs and everything else that exists online, some videos of how to do it before I try it. Then after trying it, I will think of ways I would put my spin on it. What would I do differently? How can I make this a little faster, easier, and more accessible? What flavors do I think would be better or just more appealing? Those are the questions I ask myself when I'm approaching a new recipe. So then I cook it and I write on my whiteboard what I'm doing to keep track, or I'll take pictures just for my own, you know, just on my camera roll just to have of what I'm doing. And after the recipe's done, I photograph it and then I write it. Sometimes I will jot down 3/4 of the recipe like fully finished before I cook it because I just know exactly what I'm gonna do. Sometimes I'm like making sure I capture what I'm doing in the process because I don't know what I'm gonna do. Both work, and you know, both require retesting. For this book, I will be testing recipes a few times and relying on some of my family and friends to help me with the recipe testing. So we want to make sure they are perfect for this book. And side note, something I'm really excited about this book is that I will have an opportunity to do things I wouldn't normally do in the program or on the blog, because I want the recipes to be a little bit more complex than what's on the blog and in the program, because I've heard from my editor that some recipes are like too easy in cookbooks, and she kind of guided me towards taking it up a notch. And I'm excited to really push past my comfort zone a little bit and try new techniques, new ingredients, and to see what happens. But you're in good hands. When I'm writing a recipe, I always make sure to, as clearly as possible, convey the cooking techniques in the recipe. So you're not only just cooking a delicious meal, you're also learning how to become a better cook in the process. That's what I go for. So you all had a ton of questions about the photography process, and let me tell you, I think this is my favorite part of the whole process so far. In the process of getting this deal, there was a point where they were like, okay, you can either get paid to be the photographer for this book, or you will have money to hire a photographer for the book. Of course, I wanted to photograph it myself. Little known fact about me is that I studied photography all throughout high school and college. I started college with a photography major and switched to film, but I never really, like, it's my dream to photograph this book. I'm really living my dream right now. So it's super exciting to have the idea of just having my photos in print in this book is really just like makes me so excited to do it every day. So yeah, the photography, where am I getting inspiration? I mean, I am a photographer. That's, you know, part of what I do. It's part of my job. I've been studying for a while, and I'm constantly watching videos and like looking for more tips and tricks and looking for ways to grow. So I would say a lot of it just kind of comes to me naturally when I'm looking at my food and the setting and figuring that out. But I am challenging myself to use more props and different backgrounds in my cookbook photos, which again, I was encouraged to do that by my editor, you know, compared to my Instagram, which is very minimal. There's no props. We just have our, you know, square or rectangle containers and, you know, a background, like a white background. That's it. This cookbook is gonna look a little different. Still gonna have the Workweek lunch style you know and love, but a little bit elevated. I went prop shopping over the weekend, and I went to places like Crate and Barrel. I went to Fred Meyer, the grocery store, you know, for like some more affordable pieces. I went to a local kitchen store here in Seattle. I want to go to Goodwill and other antique stores for stuff. So, you know, I'd also love to hit up the local pottery shops here. So I'm kind of just like collecting stuff as I go. And it's funny because I've been doing this for years, but I don't have any props, so I'm really starting from scratch. But when it comes to the actual photos for these recipes, I definitely do a quick Google search of like, how do people normally plate this? How do people normally photograph this kind of meal to make it look appealing? And I've been pinning different images I like and different kind of styling setups I like, just to kind of keep mentally as inspiration for when I'm shooting. Also, I watch a lot of videos about the cookbook process on YouTube, and one thing I noticed is that a lot of art directors and food stylists print the photos as they're working and make this kind of vision board to make sure that the cookbook pictures look cohesive but also varied enough. I'm not doing the printing thing, but I do have an Asana board that I'm using to make sure that I can visually see all of the pictures I'm taking in, how are they fitting together and how are they differentiated. So it's really fun. I'm loving it. Yesterday, I shot a little bit of behind the scenes stuff from developing this soup recipe, and I'll tell you right now, it definitely needs a retest. I made way too much of it, like the portions didn't work out and the flavors were a little off. I used way too much lemon. So I do have to retest it, but I think the pictures will come out good. You know, I think that the picture looks like the result I want, but the recipe definitely needs work. Here is behind the scenes, testing a chicken soup recipe. So I have all my ingredients chopped and ready like normal. I have been ridiculously measuring and writing stuff down as I go. I'm using a food scale because some of these recipes are, well, all of these recipes will have metric ingredients, so I'm using a food scale just to be extra sure. And yeah, I made the mistake of not defrosting chicken early enough, so I have to pop it in some warm water, which isn't ideal, but I think it's ready. And I'm going to cook this in my Dutch oven. I also like to use the flavor bottle while I'm cooking. It helps me get ideas for the last minute things that I want to try in this recipe, and just to, you know, continue really making sure it's original. Today I'm doing a lemon chicken soup, so I just wanted to refer to the lemon ingredient in this book before going for it. So here is how I'm setting up for this shot. This background is from a place called Ink and Elm. This is from Get It Right, Gurr. This little reflector guy kind of makes a little bit of a difference. I'm not sure about it for this shot. Yeah, I've just been playing, you know, with props and everything. My book is a meal prep book, so I want to make sure to have containers in every single shot, but I think that meals, and especially soup, looks prettier in bowls. I have my props over here. So I've got some plates and bowls and towels, cutting board, lighting equipment that I haven't really played with too much in there. More backdrops over here. This is the setup that I'm using. I'm no expert when it comes to food styling, but I did study photography, so I know this is weird, but I definitely am getting my fingers in my food a lot for these photos. Moving things around that I'm like, oh, it looks weird. I know it's odd. I should be using like tweezers and stuff, which I probably eventually will, but just learning as I go, really. I haven't mentioned this, but my cookbook manuscript is due on May 15th, and I think the photos are due shortly after or a little bit before. You know, there's another deadline for the photos. Then after the manuscript is done, the editor will look through it and work with me on it for a couple months, and we're aiming for it to be like done and out by winter of 2022. That's January of this coming January. It's really fast. Again, this process is definitely a little bit faster than like if I went the normal traditional route with like bidding and like working with a publisher with an agent and all that stuff. But I am excited to like just get it out. You know, this is the slower season for the meal prep program. We're still kind of in lockdown a little bit over here with the pandemic, so this is just the perfect time for me to pump out this book. And 60 recipes isn't really that bad. Again, compared to the other publishers who wanted like 150 or more, which is just too much for a cookbook. That's what I'm kind of grinding out, and as you know, we have a subscription. We do have to put out new recipes for that subscription every single week. That can't go in the cookbook, so thankfully I have a team that will help me during this process to continue to publish recipes while I'm working on the book. Seriously, they are rock stars. They're amazing. I couldn't have done this without them. Like if this opportunity came into my inbox last year, I would have had to say no, because there would have been no way for me to continue putting out recipes for the program and the book at the same time. How do you come up with brand new recipes that haven't been done before? The truth is that there's like no recipe that hasn't been done. It's more about how do I put my twist on it. If you Google any like type of meal, you're gonna find hundreds of recipes for it already. So I would say it's just about putting that working lunch spin on, you know, what I like, what I know that you guys like, and that's the truth. How much of a voice in the layout / design do you have? I think that I'm going to like help them a little bit, but ultimately they know how to format a cookbook properly. There are a lot of specifics around like how many pages this book can be, and if I go over a certain amount of pages, like it might get deducted from my advance and stuff. So I have to be really careful about like how much information and text I put in this book. But I do want it to have my colors and branding and maybe my fonts and stuff like that. Ultimately, I just want it to be easy to read. I guess I haven't really talked about my schedule. Someone asked, would love to know how much work it takes and what kind of work it entails. Right now, I'm doing like 4 recipes a week, but if I continue on this way, I'll only do like 36 recipes by the time my book is due, so I really have to ramp it up. I'm trying to find people to give my food to because I'm just having to cook so much more than what we need to eat. And it's a challenge for sure. But I would say I am doing 1 recipe at a time, photographing it. I really want to start using artificial light so I don't have to only cook during the day and photograph during the day. It'll help me make this book faster. So I'm going to try and play with that this week a little bit and let you know how it goes. But yeah, I mean, it's just definitely a challenge to fit recipe development and cookbook photography into my schedule of running a business and like being a manager and putting out a new meal plan every week and all that stuff. It's fun though. It keeps things interesting. It keeps me on my toes. Are you using tricks that will make the food inedible? So am I doing like lighting or food styling things with like glue and whatever else and spray? No, I'm not doing that. I'm only, doing food styling with like maybe some tweezers and some paper towels, like wiping stuff off, and I'm not doing any of those food styling tricks that makes the food inedible. That's not on brand for me. I want to eat my food. I'm excited to keep you updated throughout the process. I'll probably do like a monthly update while I'm working on it. And when it's out, I hope that you pre-order it. I hope that you get this book and that you use it for your lunches. It will include meal plans and stuff too, and all these useful resources for meal prep in general. Again, without any diet culture stuff. I probably forgot to say this, but my editor is very aware that I will not be putting any diet culture language or healthism language in the book, and I'm so excited to produce a meal prep book that is completely free of diet culture. If you go on Amazon and you look at the meal prep books out there, all of them are geared towards weight loss and dieting. Keto is a really popular one. This is gonna be the only one that is just for good food, easy lunches, and just no diet culture stuff. Okay guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any other questions about cookbooks and producing one, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you next time. Bye!